Well, hello there. Welcome to online mentorship session. I'm so excited that you are right now tuned in and live with me today. It's going to be another exciting, thought-provoking, educative, informative, and life-transforming session today. I believe that if you are on this platform, you, as well as I do, believe in growth, in personal development, in transformation, or you are a leader and you want to harness, refurbish, and develop your skills as a leader, this is the platform where all that is discussed, okay? A mixture of faith, relationships, purpose, and all of these fundamentals of life we address on this platform today. So I welcome you to online mentorship session today, Friday the 27th of June 2025. It's about 22 minutes past the hour of 7 p.m. Nigerian time, and I'm excited that we are here and we cannot wait to begin right now. So thank you so much, and I want to say thank you to all our returning subscribers and viewers, whether you're watching by Facebook or YouTube. And by the way, it's important for every one of us to know that you can stream this program live both on Facebook and on YouTube. You can connect from any of the platforms of your choice. If you are connecting from Facebook, I want you to do well to like the page and be a part of our social community on Facebook, all right? And get to see what we do and be a part of everything that is going on there. If you're watching by YouTube and this is your first time, please feel free to subscribe to the channel. There are many more contents such as this that will really be a blessing to you. Exciting, of course, and I know that you won't regret it. So I welcome you once again. Feel free to join through any of the platforms that you so wish. That being said, as it's our drill, I want you to hit the like button right now. If you're watching, hit the like button right now and begin to share with as many. I want you to do it as quickly as you can, because we have a lot to deal with today, and we want to see how we can conclude over time. And we'll try our best to ensure that we'll make it as interactive as we can. God helping us. So that being said, join me as we say a word of prayer and get ready for the session today. Once again, welcome to online mentorship session. All right, so let's say a word of prayer as we begin this session today. Father, thank you because we depend on you for wisdom. We depend on you for insight, for understanding, and we know that you will readily supply all of this by your mercy and by your great love. I pray that you give me the mouth, the wisdom, and the utterance to speak your heart to your people, that which will transform our very lives, that which will shape our worlds the very way you want it to be. Bless all the viewers right now, and thank you for a stable network. In Jesus' name, amen. So thank you very much, and I want to really thank every one of us for joining right now. See quite a number of us that are already connecting, especially those of us who connected from the very minute when it was 7 p.m. I appreciate your patience, and it shows that you're really in for what we have to offer today. Now we are going straight up to the discussion today. It's the part 2 of people-driven leadership, and I like that this particular discussion has been really interactive. As a matter of fact, these mentorship sessions are meant to be interactive. It's not just a monologue. I expect to hear from you your questions or your comments, which you can feel free to inscribe on the comment section box. Okay, you can put it on the live chat room over there, your questions as well as your comments. If there is anything you're fascinated about, or anything that thrills you, do well to simply put it on the chat room right there. And also do well to let me know where you are connecting from. I think that's also important. Let me know where you're connecting from, your city and your country. This is so that we can have an idea of the geopolitics involved. What I mean by that is we can have an idea of the diverse geographical zones that are represented right now, so that when making examples or citing illustrations, I can be sure to say things that connect with my viewers. So please feel free to let me know what city and what country you are watching from right now, whether you're watching by Facebook or YouTube. So let's get into the discussion for today. People-driven leadership. This is the part 2. Let's see how far we'll go today and know whether we are going to conclude or not. So last week we started discussing this important subject, people-driven leadership, inspiring and motivating others. And we talked about the fact that leadership is simply the capacity to influence people towards a common goal without the use of force or coercion. I believe that that's one definition of leadership that we all agree with. Influencing people towards a common goal, leading them to achieve a common goal without the use of force or coercion. We also agreed that leadership is truly all about people. In fact, the wise man once said that anybody who is leading without followers is simply taking a walk. So what makes you a leader is that you have influence over a social cycle, over a group of people, from 1, 2 to 10, and the number increases to any point that your leadership capacity can manage. But whether we like it or not, leadership is really all about people. And we also agreed that leadership is contextual. Now, when we say leadership, we're not simply talking about someone who is in a position. Perhaps in a corporate organization, you are holding a position. Maybe you're a clerk, or you are an officer, a senior officer, a manager, or you are a cleaner, or maybe you are in charge of the HR department. That's one aspect of leadership, but leadership is beyond being in a position. Leadership is contextual. That means we lead from our different spheres. Anywhere that you have been planted by purpose within any organization or any social sphere, where you get to work in such a way that your work generates influence and affects the people around you, you are a leader. So even as a father in a home, you are a leader. Even as a mother, you may not be the head directly, but you are leading. In fact, John C. Maxwell, one of the greatest authors on leadership globally, who is renowned and certified, wrote a book called The 360-Degree Leader. It's one of the most important books in my bookshelf, and I want you to get that book if you are leading anything. Even if you are leading a group of market women, or you are positioned to lead a union, I want you to get that book, The 360-Degree Leader. It's very, very important. It shows you how to lead from anywhere within an organization or a social setting, from the bottom, from the top, and from the middle. Now, several of us are actually leading from the middle, because we are leading those above us and those below us, and those below you are your subordinates, of course. Those above you are your superiors, and those around you are your colleagues. If we agree that leadership is about influence, then we need to know that it's contextual, the leadership of each and every one of us. All right? There are about 5 basic levels of leadership. We talked about that last week. We talked about the 5 levels of leadership. Let's see if there are people who can remind us on the comment section. This time where I ask my own question now. Let's see if there are those who can remind us at the comment section. How many levels of leadership did we discuss last week? The first person to get it on the chat room or the chat box gets a call from me. Let's see. 5 levels of leadership. Let's go to Facebook. Perhaps somebody has already written it and put it there. So that's a question for every one of us. And let's see those who followed from last week who can remember the 5 levels of leadership. Last week, we talked about the fact that people-driven or people-oriented leadership is leadership that focuses on channeling the potentials of people to achieve a common, specified, and clearly spelled out goal. It must be specified, it must be spelled out, it must be clarified. Leadership that focuses on channeling the potentials of the people towards achieving that goal. It's also the kind of leadership that goes beyond merely using people to achieve a goal. It goes beyond that, to helping them discover their unique potentials, developing them in their purpose. So you're going beyond just using them to achieve a goal. And once that is done, thank you everybody, and we are off. but it goes even to caring about the people, helping them discover their unique potentials, and helping them to develop those potentials as they journey on their life's purpose. That means that if you are a people-driven leader, you are concerned about your people's path in your vision. What is their purpose in your vision? Your vision must be broad enough to capture the showcasing of the skill, the potentials, the intelligence, the resource of the people that you're leading. It's not just about let's achieve mine. And that's really what you find mainstream in Africa. Let's see who got it first. In Africa, most of the time, the leadership that we've been used to is, just gather people to achieve your ambition or your goal, and that's it. And that's the reason why many organizations and many social cycles don't last. But in as much as there are goals for the organization, your vision must capture the purpose of everybody. They must find their self in what they do for you. It's very important if you really want to influence them to help you lead. So who got it first? The 5 level of leadership: position, permission, productivity, people development, pinnacle. That was from Christiana John. All right, Mrs. Christiana John, you got it correctly. So I owe you a phone call. Mrs. Christiana Joy got it. So let's give her a big applause for that. Everybody put up an applause emoji for that. She got it. 5 levels. Conrad says, I guess 6. Absolutely no, Conrad. It's 5. 5 levels of leadership. Somebody put on the comment section, can the soundtrack volume be turned down a bit, please? Okay, I think we worked on that now. So thank you so much, Christiana John. Your gift is a phone call from me. People will follow you for one of these 4. I talked about that last week. One amongst these 4 reasons will be what people will follow you for. Number 1, who you are, your personality. People will either follow you or you'll either lead people based on your personality. And of course, your personality is backed up by your convictions, your beliefs, your ideologies. Yeah, those are what forms your personality. And we have a lot of leaders like that globally, even in history, positive and negatively. People will also follow you for what you do, your results, your productivity. They may not like your person, but they like that you produce results. People will also follow you for what you give to them, what you give them. If you are the leader that empowers your people, if you give them positions to prove themselves, if you give them assignment, task, if you make them responsible, if you empower them, and that's one of the major duties of a leader, to empower his or her followers. You give them resource to help them do what they do. It's one of the reasons why people follow you. People also follow you for where you stand or where you are, your position. Whether it's your position heading within an organization or it's your position concerning an issue. These are two different things. Your position when you are appointed and given a position, or your position about an ideology, about a subject matter, about an issue. These are amongst many reasons for why people will follow you. And if people are following you, you need to embrace people-driven leadership. I said people-driven leadership places you at the center of attraction. Generating positive energy from you to the people, and generating the right amount of attraction pull from the people to you. The right energy, positive energy from you to the people, and at the same time making the people gravitate towards you. That's what the center of attraction really is in people-driven leadership. So you are at the center, and there are people around you because they are attracted to the energy that you emit. That means if you emit negative energy, you will not find so many people being pulled towards you being in the center of attraction. There are also some followers who sadly are attracted to negative energy. Yeah. There are some people who like their superiors to be narcissists, like them. But generally, it should be positive energy. Positive energy can be from your words, what you say. Do you motivate people? From your actions. Are you result driven? Are you result oriented? Maybe you are the kind of person who believes that action speaks louder than words. Maybe your compassion or human empathy towards people. Maybe you care more about the welfare of your staff or the people around you. That's definitely positive energy for someone to be attracted to. And such was a leader in the person of Jesus Christ. All the disciples he had, he called them. And there was something about his life that attracted all of them. Maybe a miracle he did for them. Maybe what he said, the truth he spoke, the wisdom that came from him, the love that he showed. Like in the case of Matthew, he showed him love because Matthew was a tax collector. And tax collectors were considered as heathens, as sinners. But Jesus went to Matthew the sinner and said, "Follow me." Matthew invited him for supper, and he went to his house to eat as against public scrutiny. For Peter, he did a miracle for him. And he told him, "Follow me and I'll make you fishers of men." So you have to be at the center of attraction. There's something about you that you must understand and harness that generates positive energy from you to the people you are leading well enough to pull them closer to you, because it's all about people-driven leadership. And then finally, I said 4 things that we need to know to succeed as people-driven leaders, or to be efficient in people-driven leadership. If you want your leadership to be about you helping people find their place, helping people develop themselves, whilst they help you achieve the goal that is set ahead of you, you must know these 4 things. Number 1, you must focus on helping people find their place. We talked about that in your vision and also in discovering their identity. Number 2, we talked about striving towards developing people. You must strive towards developing people. Let it not just be about you or the goals. Help them to develop. How? By becoming the model. Become what they can see. It is often said that a leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. People will develop when they have a template, when they have a blueprint, when they have a model, something to look up to. And the truth is, everybody wants to look up to somebody. That's why if you develop your leadership skill, if you develop yourself as a people-driven leader, you will become an asset in this generation, regardless of what career choice or path that you take. If you can be that person that people can look up to as a model and follow, you are already creating systems that help to develop the people around you. You can also strive towards developing the people by cultivating their skills and potentials. Create structures, create opportunities that help them to develop their skills and potentials. Maybe, for instance, allow them to go for conferences, seminars, symposiums. Pay for them to go and attend. Encourage them, especially if they want to go back to get another degree. In fact, some organizations even allow you to apply for what they call study leave, and they fund it. Help them to cultivate their skills. Put them on assignments, practical assignments that helps them to develop on the job. Number 3, you must multiply your results by multiplying yourself. That's true. People-driven leadership is all about replicating yourself. It's not about being the one-man champion. After a while, there should be people who know what to do, some of the things you can do. And then you stay at your unique position at the center of that organization or that social cycle by observing, supervising, and being the visionary, being the visionary. All right? Multiply yourself in them. I told you that you can do well on your own, but you will do more with others, and that's really true. So allow for people to learn on the job. Replicate yourself in them, and your results will be replicated across board. One example of such a leader was David. David was a people-driven leader. His heart was for people, to help them grow, develop, be the best they can be. When they came to him in 1 Samuel 22, they had nothing. Some of them were in debt. Some of them were discontented about life. Some of them were even suicidal. But in the next book, many years later, when David was king, many of them had become giant slayers and mighty warriors. And some of them, in fact, one of them called Abishai, saved David's life in his old age. If you want that to happen, then you must replicate yourself fast. Even if you are just leading 3 people, start duplicating what you can do. Make sure there are people that can do what you can do. You see, if you must be a people-driven leader, you realize, remember the center of attraction thing I talked about. You need to stay in that center, where by your vision, by your strategies, by your initiatives and innovations, you are able to positively influence your team. In fact, you are now occupying the position as the primary problem solver of that organization. So there are many things you shouldn't do again. There are things other people should do. They should take responsibility for. Empower them, put them in a position, teach them, let them know what you can do. There are some leaders who feel insecure when they teach people what they can do. They feel that they will no longer be loyal to them. No. Everybody, bad, good, or ugly, will be at some point loyal to the person who made them. And even if they refuse to, they can't erase that person from their story. They will always feel indebted. It's called empowerment. Alright, so multiply your results by multiplying yourselves. And finally, motivate your team towards success. Inspire them by learning to listen to them. Inspire them by speaking to them. Let your words come to give hope to them. The Bible says in Job 6 verse 25, how forceful are right words. Speak right towards them. Motivate them. Create positive energy within your team by your speech as a leader. Help them build faith in themselves. That happens, of course, beginning with speech. Let them know they can do it. Let them know that impossibility only exists in their mind. Let them know that there is no mountain we cannot surmount as a team. That in fact, all the problems and the gridlocks ahead of us are opportunities to task to prove what kind of competent people we are. You must be look at Moses when he stood before the Red Sea and the people cried before him, we are about to be slaughtered. The Egyptians are right behind us. We have mountains on the right and left, and the Red Sea that will not open. We don't even think it will open at all. It's right before us. God told Moses when he cried to God, say, why are you talking to me? Tell them to go forward. That was a statement of faith. Go forward. And Moses told them, he said, the Egyptians you see today, you will not see them anymore. Stand still and see the salvation of God, for God will fight for you. Told them, march straight into the sea. There are times like that where you need to help your people build confidence. Even when they have given up and they come to you and say, sir, we can't do this, it's impossible. Tell them, I'd love to see you try. Or tell them, prove me wrong. I hired you because I knew that you were specialized in impossible things. But sir, how do you know? I just have a degree. I don't even have a master's. Tell them that leadership is about solving problems and you don't need a degree to do that. Look them in the eye and build confidence in them. Let people remember you for always injecting faith in them and not fear. There are some leaders who, out of insecurity, inferiority complex, or low self-esteem, try to talk down on their people. That's wrong leadership. You'll only create fear. You create oblivion in them, and the organization will suffer for it. All right, so that's so much of a summary for last week, and I want to start with questions. Please do well to write your questions. I'll be waiting for more questions today on the comment session. But we have 2 questions from last week that we'll need to take, and I just want to take them right now. This one says, how do you deal with a leader who lies and shifts blame, refusing to take responsibility for their actions just to protect their image? Well, if you read the Holy Bible, an example of these kinds of leaders are the Pharisees, the chief priest. Yeah. They wanted Jesus dead, but they could not gather themselves together to say it. And so they pushed him to Herod, pushed him to Pilate. Somebody had to just do it for them. Now, any leader who lies and is good in giving blames is a leader that struggles with, number 1, low self-esteem. Or inferiority complex. That means there is a distortion. That means there is a distortion in the identity that they have of themselves. One of the hallmarks of leadership is taking responsibility, being responsible. If the leader is in a position in an organization above you, well, there is very little you can do. But even with the little, you can still make a difference. If they are found of telling lies and shifting blames and refusing to take responsibility, the first advice I'll give to you is to ensure that you are truthful and straightforward towards them. At least if nobody can hold on to their words, let them be able to hold on to your words. Be truthful and straightforward towards those leaders. Don't bend or compromise like them. Number 2, if it's an organization that considers important the feedback of its staff, that you may need to wisely and with discretion send a feedback to someone who is superior to that leader. I said discretion because some of those kinds of leaders will not take it lightly if they found out that you said anything against them, even if what you said is the truth. Remember, I said they are either struggling with low self-esteem or inferiority complex, or insecurity. They are trying to protect their image. But you know that the habit that they have formed of telling lies and shifting blames and not taking responsibility is going to affect the work. It's going to affect you. So try to send a feedback to those ahead of that leader. Look for any of the superiors who is wise and thoughtful and has discretion, and say it to them in confidence. If it's an open organization where you can leave, I will advise you to leave. Maybe leave to another department, leave to another section, because this is unbecoming of a leader. Well, if they are the ones that employed you, then you may want to consider what I want to briefly share on today. But try exhausting any of the other things I've talked about. It will help you. How do you harness? This is another question. How do you harness the potentials of your followers and still help them work on their weaknesses at the same time? Now, you will have to put together several systems to work for this to happen. You are helping them to harness their potentials, at the same time helping them to work on their weakness. So their potentials are supposed to be their strengths that should be sharpened, and their weaknesses where they need help. So this is what you do. Now you are the leader and they are followers. This is what you do. In fact, there's no need to answer this question. It's what I'm going to talk about today. So let's just leave it and listen to what I have to say. I'm still waiting for more questions, but these two questions will lead me to answer this, will lead me to talk about what we have for today as the part 2. All right, this is someone else asking. You can put more questions if there are people here. Someone says, how can a leader handle an organization in which there is financial problems and they look up to you as a leader to provide, and yet don't have the capacity to handle it? Good. I'll tell you one thing you can do, and then I'll move into the discussion for today, which may be short, but it will answer a lot of questions. Now, you would have noticed that I said leadership is basically about solving problems. The reason why you are in that position, or you were given that amount of influence, is because there was a need that was to be addressed. There was a problem that was to be solved. There was an issue that was to be tackled. That's why you are there as a leader. Every emerging leader is the solution to a problem. You need to be sure if you are equal to the task. Whether it was Moses and the problem of bringing liberty to the children of Israel, or whether it was David and the problem of having a king who will rule with justice, equity, and the fear of the Lord, whether it was Samuel and the problem of establishing priesthood in Israel and drawing the people back to God, or whether it was Jesus and the problem of saving mankind from sin. Leadership is all about solving problems. And you will need to task everything you have, your spiritual, mental, academic, and practical resources to solve problems. Now, if you are in an organization as a leader that has financial problems, what can you do when everybody is looking up to you? The first thing is you must be positive that this problem can be solved. We'll just find a way around it. This problem can be solved. Sweeping it under the carpet or postponing it does not really help. Face it head on and believe it could be solved. Number 2, in as much as you believe that that financial issue can be tackled, you must realize that you can't tackle it alone. If you have the money to bail out the organization, fine. Gather the other leaders within the organization, sit down, do some paperwork, bring in your legal team, solve the problem, and then ensure that there's a system that pays back that money to you, except you are doing it for free. And don't be under compulsion to always use your money to handle company problems or your organization's problems. No. Charity should be willful. It should not be based on circumstances. It should not be a by force thing, in quote. No. Gather the other leaders in the organization, bring in your lawyer, do some paperwork, solve the issue, and let the company be able to pay back, whether instrumentally or at once. Another way you can tackle that financial problems is, if it's a company and the company is about to go bankrupt, look for your most trusted investors. Perhaps this can be a meeting between you, the board of directors, and the investors. Call them, have a roundtable meeting with them. Our company is about to go bankrupt. We're about to declare bankruptcy. Being that they are investors or shareholders, they have stakes that they would not want to lose, because if the company goes grounded, they will also lose. And among those investors, you will have 1 or 2 or more persons that will bring a bailout to you. Some other companies can work on having a trust fund secured somewhere. And that's the thing. No organization should, I don't advise any organization to have just one account. No. Have more than one at least. One for operations and one for security and emergencies. Sometimes they call it a trust fund. When there are emergencies, maybe the company is about to go bankrupt, or there are issues that need to be solved and the company's money is still liquid, you can cash in on it. Not only individuals should save, even organizations, corporations should save. Very, very important. You can save by keeping the money in an account. You can save by buying stocks or bonds or shares in other companies. Yeah. Okay? Or you can save by bringing in another company within your parastatal or body to solve. You've often heard of group of companies. Yes. So when the textile branch of the conglomerate is about to die, they can bring in the logistics branch to help solve that. That's what happens. There are banks that they're also going to mortgage. They have savings and loans, all kinds of different aspects. And one or more of these aspects can be brought in to help salvage the company or the organization. Another way to solve those financial problems can be in what I'm going to talk to you about. Part 2, people-driven leadership. We're going to talk about the power of dialogue and diplomacy. The power of dialogue and diplomacy. What is a dialogue? Dialogue is a conversation between 2 or more people as a feature of a book, play, or film. A conversation between 2 or more people. Or it can be a conversation or discussion to resolve a problem. A dialogue is simply a conversation between 2 or more people to discuss or resolve a problem. One of the power of a people-driven leader is your ability to broker for a dialogue, especially when the need arises. Listen, leaders have power. This power is what helps them to influence those that they lead. Now, we cannot ask leaders to surrender all the power they have. No. They will not be able to steer the ship of the organization towards the right direction. They will not be able to exercise those powers as and when needed. And at the same time, we cannot ask them to always use that power, or what you call authority. I said it last week that authority is like soap. The more you use it, the less you have it. No leader should always want to use their authority. No. It will make you a dictator. There is a balance. There is a middle point. There is moderacy in how a leader should exercise the authority that they have. Now, if you truly want to influence and not control your people, as a leader, you must once in a while learn how to use the power of dialogue. Dialogue is an important tool for any leader who wants to influence and not control his followers. Dialogue is a very important tool. Do you know that dialogue is to love what blood is to the body? When dialogue stops, love does, and resentment is born. But dialogue can restore a dead relationship. Because love is what keeps that relationship between you and the people you are leading. And what will feed that love is consistent dialogue. Of course, there are things you don't have to dialogue with your people. But then there are certain decisions that you know will affect the transitioning or the future of the organization, that once in a while as a leader you need to surrender to dialogue. Calling your most trusted staff, calling those who are leading with you. You are a CEO, calling your CFO, your chief financial officer, calling your chief strategy officer, calling your chief operating officer. Sit down with them and have a dialogue. Sometimes even in developing your organization, giving it a facelift or a new look, you may need to even learn to dialogue with even the lowest staff. Those ones that stay at the door, the security men, the cleaners, those ones that once and again relate with your customers and people around. Like they know the office as they know their name. Sometimes you need to establish dialogue situations with these people. It's very important. You want to learn how to solve problems as a leader of an organization, no matter how small or big. You must understand and embrace the power of a dialogue. You want to learn how to heal rifting relationships, conflict, dialogue. Jesus said in Matthew 18 that if your brother has sinned against you, go and tell him it's for. Have a dialogue with him. And when he agrees, you have won your brother. Now, for you to have effective dialogue in your organization or social cycle, you must embrace what we call diplomacy. Diplomacy. Diplomacy is the best atmosphere or the best character for the use of dialogue. So what is diplomacy? Diplomacy is The art of dealing with people in a sensitive and tactful way. The art of dealing with people in a sensitive and tactful way. When you are dialoguing with people, when you are dialoguing with those you lead as a people-driven leader, you need to understand the diplomatic approach. Now, people in the West would embrace this a lot, and then maybe a few corporate organizations. But generally, if you come to Africa, people don't really always want to embrace diplomacy. Some people feel that when you are diplomatic, you are being political. Just tell them what to do and let them do it. Who cares what they think? Are they the ones funding the organization? Is it not with my blood, sweat, and tears that I built this organization? They will do it eventually because they don't have a say. And that's how they will never want to have a say. And you will just be taking a walk. And remember, a leader without followers, not just people, not just numbers, but people whose hearts are bonded to you. If you don't have that, you are taking a walk. You will just realize that anything you tell them, they'll say yes. Because of resentment. But you have to be diplomatic sometimes. Even when you have the power to shut out and to shut down. Try diplomatic approach. In fact, in international relations between governments and countries, just before anything escalates into a war situation, they try diplomacy first. They send the ambassador of this nation to sit down with the president, sit down with the ambassador. How can we amicably resolve this issue? Both our countries are having strong ties. We can't just start quarreling over this issue. So much of what is happening in the world today, much of the conflict you have with many nations now are severed diplomatic ties, severed diplomatic relations. Diplomacy. Diplomacy is not being political. It's being sensitive in approaching people over situations. It is the art and practice of conducting negotiations between nations. And that's when it has to do with international relations. It is the skill in handling affairs without arousing hostility. Handling affairs without arousing hostility. So sometimes, if your organization is about to go bankrupt, you need to combine dialogue and diplomacy to help your organization out of it. Sometimes you may have people within your department, your organization, your group that have the money that can solve that. But you will never know except you approach them for a dialogue and you do it diplomatically. This is one thing I'm learning up till today in my leadership. I don't want to be a dictator. I want to know when it is time for me to call the shots and take decisions binding on the organization. And I also want to know when I should diplomatically engage in dialogue. Sometimes between your group or your organization or your department and the host community. Dialogue. And this is really, really, really very, very important. One of those questions I tried to attempt about you trying to develop the potentials of your people at the same time trying to help them work on their weaknesses. It will take dialogue and diplomacy. Now, put them in areas where their potentials will shine, where their weaknesses will not show. For instance, if somebody has a weakness of keeping money, don't give that person any task that involves keeping money. Not even by faith. Don't. Take them somewhere else where they can shine. Let somebody who has that as a strength stay there. That's the thing about you as a people-driven leader. You must understand the potentials the strength and the weaknesses of all the people you lead, and know how to use their weaknesses to complement each other. So while they are shining and excelling in the place of their strength, now it's time to work on their weakness. Sit down, have a dialogue with them. If you realize from the first dialogue you have with them, they are defensive, this is what to do. Allow them. Wait for 2 or 3 other people to notice this weakness and come to you. Then call them back again and say, I've had a complaint from 2, 3 or 4 persons about this. You are good in this, you are good in this, but they've also complained about this, and they really want you to work on it. If they accept, fine. Then you constructively begin to criticize and help them find a solution. If they are still defensive, then this is what you do as a leader. Give them assignments that will expose that weakness to themselves, but in such a way that it won't cause fatality to the growth and the progress of the organization. So now that they have an assignment that has exposed the weakness to them, they know, and everybody knows, it will bring some form of shame and sorrow in them. But you see, it's not the sorrow that you black them out and make them not talk to anybody and not want to, they just feel sad and ashamed. No. It's the kind of sorrow that 2 Corinthians 7 verse 10 talks about. Godly sorrow leads to repentance. They now know that this is their problem, and they know that everybody knows because they were given an assignment and they failed. When they come to you diplomatically as a leader, embrace them. Tell them, no, don't worry. You've also been good here and there and there. We know that you are a good staff. We know you can do this. You just need to work on this and that. And then gradually point them towards the path of healing and restoration and growth. That's one way to handle it. And when having dialogues with people, we must learn what we call constructive criticism. Criticism is either constructive or destructive. For your criticism to be constructive, the tone of your voice matters. The use of your language matters. Don't hide the truth because you don't want them to feel bad. But at the same time, don't say the truth in a way that makes them feel hurt. So there's a moderation for it. Even the timing of talking. I've learned one thing as a leader. People have different threshold of pain. People have different threshold of admitting their wrongs. And you need to study that. There are people who you can correct them at the instance and they don't have a problem with that. There are people who, if you do that, you just kill their zeal, their morale. You make them snuff back and hide in their shell. They are like snails. And so that's where diplomacy comes in. Being sensitive to the emotions of the people and using that to engage in dialogues and conversations that will help constructively heal them. Now, however, there are a few exceptions that dialogue and diplomacy doesn't even work for them. No matter what you do, this is just who they are. You have just 2 options. It's either you fire them or 3. Either you fire them or ostracize them from the group or send them to a department where they can go and work on themselves. For instance, if you are leading a music group in a church and somebody is problematic in that group, the person's excesses and weaknesses is really costing the group so much. If you don't want to ostracize them from the group, send them to the prayer department. Tell them you are sending them on ITF for 3 months. Tell them that everybody in the department, that's the new policy. You'll be sending everybody to one department or the other to see what they can learn from which department and come back and grow your department. That's still a diplomatic way of solving that issue without raising a rebel. And then they go there. And then you pray and hope that they change. Some people are so impossible to lead that no matter everything you do, they just won't change. Diplomacy doesn't work for them. Dialogue doesn't work for them. Force doesn't even work for them. Then don't even have them in your team in the first place. Or if you came and met them in the team, find a way to get them out. Yeah. Find a way to get them out. Let's stop here for today. Let's see if we have more questions before we close. Dialogue and diplomacy. Very important. Somebody say, dialogue is to love what blood is to the body. Omo. They spelled it as Omo. I really loved that financial question from Waziri, right? Waziri, Ilya Waziri. That's a very, very... Leonard Magbuin said, you're right, sir. Thank you, Leonard. Please let me know where you're following from. Yeah. In fact, any leader that can tackle financial problems of an organization is going to be a real asset. Because finances make up for majority of the problems within organizations, corporate organizations, of course. You know, but my mentor told me something one time, that the solution to every problem is always around the problem. You just need to learn to sit down as the leader and think out of the box. Have a thinking pattern that is different from every other person in your department, in your organization. Excuse me. Don't think like them. That's the only way you'll be able to find the solution. And most times the solution will be within. No, that's the reason why sometimes CEOs and top leaders of, multinational companies, check the kind of games they play. They don't just play games for fun alone. They play games to also build their IQ. Some of them play chess. Some of them play golf. Some of them even have golf in their office. They go for recreational activities that helps their brain to think. Some of them even go on vacation. You know what they are doing in that vacation? They are just thinking through the problems of the organization. How do we navigate this storm? Every leader must learn to think out of the box. And of course, beyond your thinking, trust in God, who is the only wise God and the one who is able to solve any problem whatsoever they are. That will help you. God's Time says, thank you for all you do, sir. Thank you, God's Time. I'm so glad you've been following. Thank you. All right, if there are no questions, we'll have to stop here for today. Thank you so much for joining in today. Please make sure you hit the like button. If you have not liked this video, please like it right now. Do well to subscribe on YouTube and follow our page on Facebook. We are coming back in 2 weeks' time to conclude on people-driven leadership. I promise that it's going to be more interactive. I'm going to get more questions from you, and God help us to use this to become better qualitative leaders in society. Oh, there's one question before we go. This is from Magaji Emmanuel Elisha. Sir, what should I do if I have a team that I hardly gain their complete loyalty and commitment towards me and task assigned? I'm asking from a perspective of a church setting. Oh, that's true. Then it could be that you were newly elected to lead them, or maybe you were sort of appointed to lead them. I didn't want to use the word imposed. So perhaps they feel that you were imposed on them. If you are having a department in a church that you are leading and you are not getting their full loyalty and commitment, you need to realize that it comes with time. They will have to trust you to submit their loyalty to you. And it also means that perhaps it's not long that you were appointed to lead them. So don't struggle, just serve them. Be a servant leader. Make them know that you are there to serve them, to achieve the goal of that group, and to help them become better people. And then empower them. No matter how bad they are, look for their strengths and assign tasks and responsibility to them. Now, you will have to trust them blindly because you are not sure of their loyalty. So if you give them something to do, prepare your mind that they may not come back doing it very well. And develop a lot of love and compassion for them. Develop room for them to make mistakes. Help to nurture them to grow. You know, when you practice people-driven leadership over a period of time, you will win their support and their loyalty. And being that it's in a faith organization, a church, you need to pray. You need to pray for them. Prayer will influence them a great deal. And then be patient with them. Soon, they will get to trust you. They will see you as a servant leader. They will see you doing what you ask them to do. They will be able to look up to you as a model. They will learn to trust you. And then they will commit to you and be loyal to you. It comes with time when these principles are applied. Magaji, I hope you learned something. Any other question? Elizabeth said, thank you so much, sir. This is master class. That financial answer is up. Thank you. You can hire me too. In your organization, you can hire me to consult for you. God bless you. I'll be more than happy and glad to help you, myself and my team over here. All right. I just have a passion to see the next generation of leaders do well, to lead their churches, groups, organizations, and society at large. That's my passion. And I thank you for sharing this passion by being a part of this broadcast. From me and the team in the studio, it's thank you very much. Have a lovely evening and a wonderful last weekend of the month of June. I will see you in July. My email is on the live chat session. Let me know what you think about these sessions, every one of it. I need your constructive criticism. Thank you. God bless you. Bye for now.